paying attention to the success that I did have, I was a lot happier. And when you're happy and you focus on the things that you're doing right, it's easier to keep growing. When all you do is focus on your shortcomings, it's crippling.
How do people think I'm good at what I do? I just do my own thing, and people say they like it, but I don't know why. So I don't know why they think I deserve to be here.
Not only do you have it easy in comparison to with what I had to do to get there, but also it's not really teaching you anything.
What does good look like? And they say whatever. And or we discover that they don't have what that looks like yet. And I'm like, dude, that is so fucking critical for you to have an understanding of what good looks like for you.
Hey, Red Valkyrie fans. Thanks for coming back for part 2 of that awesome discussion that we were having last week. Hopefully, it's not too jarring jumping straight back into the action, because that's exactly what we're going to do. Me, Cy, Eric, and Gib had a wonderful time having this discussion, and I hope that you guys enjoy it.
When people approach me and say, hey, I'm at the whatever part of my journey of becoming a better artist, right? And I go, cool. And I was like, hey, can you give me feedback on how to get better? My next question is, what does good look like for you? Mm-hmm. Right? What does good look like?
Exactly.
And they say, whatever. They find the metric, and or we discover that they don't have what that looks like yet. And I'm like, dude, that is so fucking critical for you to have an understanding of what good looks like for you. Because good, like for me, I'm going to give you feedback based on that. And that's not going to be helpful for you. Right? So what does top shelf look like for you? And then I can start calibrating. Now, based on that, if they were to say, well, how long do you think it's going to take me to get there? I can give you that feedback. I can give you that feedback to be like, hey, I want to be as good as Frank Frazetta. And I'm like, okay, so that's a big bucket. In what capacity, right? Are you talking about like anatomically, like painterly, just like whatever it is? And you
sweeping the floor.
Start whittling down that bucket into much smaller buckets. And you're like, well, I want to be there as good as Frank Frazetta when it comes to painting. I'm like, great. That's actually just approachable color theory, right? Painting to me, the Frank Frazetta way is something else. But in as far as like where he is in his painting, that's incredibly basic, right? It's not very sophisticated. It's the entire package that makes them Frank Frazetta. So if that is what you're looking for, that's probably going to take you like 5 years. 5 years of like really hardcore dedication. Now, in the capacity that he's doing it, probably like 20 years. Do you have 20 years to wait? Might take you faster, right? It may go faster. You could turn the corner and be like, I completely understand painting theory. I completely understand how to like paint really sophisticated skin with green under it and it doesn't look disgusting. Cool. Yeah, but probably 5 years. 2 years if you're trying really, really hard, right?
Please teach the She-Hulk animators how to paint skin with green underneath it without
so tough.
When I used to
that job is so hard to make that work, and people don't quite understand.
Just take twice the fucking time and don't make her look like a mongoloid. That's all I'm asking.
Oh my gosh, it's tough to make that, because how would that work? Let me just divert the conversation. Like turning that green skin, and that people are like, oh, I don't understand why it's so difficult. I'm like, green to make work, to make it look like it's not plastic. It's not just about like adding a texture to it, which is what people are like, is that just a button? You're like, no, like there's blood under there, so you've got to consider
how an artist who has to try and do green paint and have it not look like it's
not, but Shae, it's not practical. It's all CGI. So I mean, just make it look like the fucking Hulk in Marvel movie. That's all you got to do. Nope. If you need to take extra time to do it, take the extra fucking time.
That's the other point, but they don't. They really do not. I wish they did. They probably wish that they did. They don't. And this is probably something that rarely anybody talks about. Some of that technology is so ridiculously proprietary, right? Mm-hmm. Like they do not have access to it. So to make that green Hulk, so I'm looking at the, what do you call it? I'm looking at the Hulk, even as they, like, I can't remember, it was in the first first 2 episodes, as they're sitting next to each other, you're like, they know how to emulate that technology, but that didn't belong to them. Either that or the files, and they were like, yeah, we could kind of make this work, and 90% of the work has been done for them. They had not developed technology for She-Hulk yet. and they're whittling away at it, but it's not going to be great until later. And the best example that I can use as a point of reference is if you look at Finding Nemo, as amazing as all the simulation that's going on in that movie, by the time they got to Dory, they had it in their back pocket. They knew, and yet they still built on it to make it look as good as they did. And look at the time difference between that first and second movie. So to assume that they can just jump into She-Hulk and do it well, it's really, really difficult, but they did it to themselves.
They did do it to themselves. If you know what, James Cameron is the perfect example of this, right? James Cameron has an idea for a movie that he wants to do, whether it was Abyss or whether it's Avatar. But he has an idea, or Titanic. He has an idea of what he wants to do, and he's like, you know what, the technology isn't there, not yet. So you know what, I'm going to build it. And then he takes 6, 8, 10 years. He throws money behind it. He gets people who actually know what the fuck they're doing, and they make it happen. And you know what? The audience has to wait. Look at Avatar 1 to Avatar 2. Christ, what a wait. But now he's sticking them underwater. so it's even more complex.
No,
motion cap underwater.
Get back on topic, I promise. But I look at the Marvel Plus TV shows, and I look at it as just like a TV show. They have a TV show budget. That's what I look at, and I go like, that's pretty damn good for TV show budget. If you were to bring that into feature film, however, you'd be like, whoa, that's you guys needed to put that into the oven and bake that a little bit longer, because that's not it.
You know what? I have the perfect analogy for that. So look at 60s Star Trek, right? Horribly hokey, shoestring budget, but they made it work, and they made it look stylish, and they made it look neat.
But that's
and
what
people bought into it.
That's what I meant when I said like, they did it to themselves as far as setting up expectation for feature film versus their TV shows.
But then, and here's what illustrates that. Okay, take Next Generation. Okay, slicker, bigger budget, really, really great looking TV. Now they tried to transition that to a movie in Star Trek Generations. And what we saw was those same sets that look brilliant and gorgeous on TV. Once you stuck a movie camera in there instead of a TV camera in there, they look like dog shit. The models look like ass. All their special effects basically look like shoestring crap. And I think that's what we're seeing now. So you promised we'd loop this around, and I do have something to say on that subject, getting back to what you guys were saying at the very, very beginning. People today and their shortcuts and their easy mode and their let's look up the instructions. I think what people who have gone through the hard knocks and all that kind of stuff, I think that feeling behind it is not only do you have it easy in comparison to with what I had to do to get there, but also it's not really teaching you anything if you have the answer key in front of you for how to get there, because you're not developing the skill, you're emulating the product, right? So in that sense, not only are you not developing the skills, but you're not developing the character that it takes to develop the skill. So you might be able to write like the next Stephen King because you've decoded how to write like Stephen King. That doesn't make you a good writer, and that doesn't mean that you went through what Stephen King went through to get to that place. The other problem with that, and I think we're seeing this in a lot of media today, is they have that formula, that secret, equation for what the masses are going to gobble up, at least initially. But just like they don't have the character to match the established skills that they're emulating, they don't know how to impart that to what they're creating. So the characters, the story, things like that fall flat.
Good point.
So that's what I was going to say from the beginning.
Yes and no. I think it always comes down to the same thing. Yeah, you could have the instruction manual in front of you, and Shae and I can speak to this because how many people have given you while we were in the service, here's the roadway to success. Whether or not you take it or not, there are some people who do the minimum and reach the minimum or reach the midpoint, but then there are people who are hungry. And that comes down to character and down to drive. And everybody's journey is the same. I don't want to create a pathway to success, because there is no pathway to success other than like work hard, learn from your mistakes, save your money, and work even harder. You know, other than that, there is no, I mean, no matter what your skill set happens to be, if you don't have the drive and the hunger and the lack of hubris to like, okay, I made mistakes and I will learn from these mistakes and I will get better. And also you need mentors who are willing to like overlook mistakes and see that you grew from those mistakes. You know, every skill set, and I don't care if it's a plumber or an artist, you know, you have to learn, like, if you do this, this will explode. Then it explodes in your face. Okay, now you have no eyebrows. Have you learned from your mistake? But now fix it and start over again. You know, and that's what whittles away people. You know, when I used to teach martial arts, I took and taught, you know, and helped my main instructor. And inevitably, whenever we were teaching these kids, at the end of the test, pass or fail, there was always the exact same question. And my instructor taught me this. He's like, watch, they're going to ask this question, and I have the exact same answer. It's the same one you asked me when you were a kid. And I waited, and here it came. Okay, what do I have to work on now? Everything. You're just a blank belt. Blue belt, green belt, red belt, even a black belt. It's like, great, you're a black belt. You're only a first degree. You have to work on everything. That's the thing. It's like there is no, I mean, what Eric was saying earlier about what does success look like for you, that's great. I'm sure people come along to you like, how do I get to you? And like looking at you as a finished product. And you're like, I'm not done learning. I'm not done getting better. Like I am still on my path. You know, my path is just further down the road than yours. You know, so, you know, live, write, draw, create. You have to have that hunger in order to do it. Otherwise, you're just going to languish in your own frustration. And
well, and that's
it.
really, that's what I was going to say with the question that Eric's posed, where people like to say, well, you only have this stance because you've had some modicum of success. The difference is how you've defined success, right? Because the people who are putting that spin on it see success as being some huge, grand end product, end goal. You are now this, right? And now that you are this, that is the only reason why you can have that kind of mentality. I have tried having a YouTube channel before. I had a YouTube channel when YouTube was just starting out. I had a chance to be one of those people that had a fucking gold play button. Like I could have, on the trajectory that we were going, I could have made that. That could have been a thing. But what ended up happening was I looked at every little thing that we did well and I undersold it. And I looked at every single criticism I got and I made it way bigger than it was. And it completely paralyzed me and shut me down and stopped me from trying until the point that we deleted the account entirely. Right? So looking at that, now Cy approaches me 3 years ago and says, I want to do a YouTube channel with you. I think it'd be great. And I have that in the back of my head going, you've done this before. You remember how this went the last time, right? And I went, you know what? Fuck it. Because if just me starting a channel, that is a success. Just me starting a channel with another person and putting myself back out there, that's a success. And then we started having shows and I went, you know what? I'm going to start doing cosplay for these shows. That was another success. And then, you know, now we're going to do writing prose and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And we're going to expand and we're going to get merch and we're going to have a store and a website. And all of those were tiny little successes for me. And so when somebody turns around and says, you can only have the stance that you have because of the success that you've experienced, we don't have a play button. This is not a sustainable income that comes from YouTube. This is a lot of fucking work. But I redefined what success looked like for me. And that's why I have the stance that I do, is because I noticed once I started paying attention to the success that I did have, and I started paying attention to what I actually am hoping to get out of this long term, I was a lot happier and things worked a lot better. And when you're happy and you focus on your positives and you focus on the things that you're doing right, it's easier to keep growing and getting more positives. When all you do is focus on your shortcomings and how you're not good enough, it's crippling and it destroys you. So
well, you focus on that you're not at your end goal yet.
Exactly. And this isn't the end goal. This is not the end goal for Red Valkyrie.
No, it really isn't. But my point is, if all you're looking at is the finish line, you don't see the ground you're covering.
Right.
And you don't enjoy the ground you're covering. You don't look around. You don't appreciate, oh wow, I did really hard work to get from, that where I was to where I am right now. Mm-hmm. All you focus on is, oh wow, I'm not there yet, and God, I'm so tired, and yeah. So
well, and
if I can mentor anything into anybody, it's what you just said just now, Sarah, which is, that's the and in some cases the end goal is also like the success, right? But I often say that the end goal is great. That's going to be when you get there. That's going to be amazing. I think it's high fives all around. I think it's the fact that you focus on to Sai's point, the ground that you've covered. You're going to look forward and go, there's still 100 miles in front of me. I'm like, fuck, that's super daunting. But how many miles were behind you? You just covered now. It's like 300 miles. Like, did you ever think you could cover 300 miles? Like, nope. Okay, cool. Let's go. You did it. We're 3/4 of the way there. Let's go.
Well, and I think that another thing people should pay attention to is there's a very good chance that you will never hit your end goal, because every time you get a new milestone, every time you get a new success, your end goal changes.
Yep.
And so your end goal, like for me, I fully expect to never hit an end goal, because my end goal is just going to keep getting pushed out, because certain personalities have that. There's certain people that have the desire to constantly be better than what they were the day before. And those are the people that are constantly practicing, pushing, growing, asking for feedback, taking their hits and coming back from them stronger because they have that drive. There are some people that don't. There are a lot of people who don't have that drive because it's hard. And it's hard to honestly ask people for feedback and for people to tear down something. Like a perfect example, I was really proud of a piece that I painted. And I thought that it turned out really, really good in comparison to some of my other character paintings that I had done before. And what I did was the most terrifying thing I could think of. I sent it to Eric and asked him for honest feedback. And the thing that was really interesting to me is I sent it to Eric. He gives me the honest feedback, and I went, you know what? The criticism that he gave me would have made this piece better. And it would have made me a better painter. So the next time I do a painting, that's what I'm going to try and focus on, because that was a good piece of advice, as opposed to going, Eric said that my lighting was a little off and I should have done better. Like, that's not... I was actually super shocked. I sent it to Eric and he was like, wow, this is good. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm going to need you to say at least something I need to work on, because I can't
I'm going to need you
accept
to say that live so I can record it.
Oh, I have DMs. It's fine. I have the screenshots.
But I mean, you could have a video that you could play. Like, I'm getting discouraged. Hit the Eric button.
Hit the Eric encouragement. That's why I listened to writing Prose, where it says I could teach you all how to draw, and then I'm like, oh.
You also hit on something earlier. It's like we have a grass is greener mentality. If I'm a decent writer, but I look at artists, I'm like, oh, I want to do that, mm-hmm. And I take for granted the skills that I have learned in my respective my lawn. I couldn't video edit and other things that Shae, you say you have TV and video and production background, and these are skill sets you've learned and you do, and like you still want to do other things, but like the skills you do, you're like, I'm so tired because I do them, and it's almost rote at a certain point.
Yeah.
But someone else is looking away. You're like, now how do I get to there? You're like, I don't know, just watch YouTube, fucking learn.
You just do it. Why are you asking me?
Right.
This is annoying.
But that's my whole point. When Sai's talking about like so many reads on the fan fiction sites, I'm like, I would be petrified to put my idea of what, like, here's what I think 100%. Supernatural should have been. I that paralyzes me with fear, because it's
anonymous.
It doesn't matter. I couldn't take the feedback. I've gotten a thick enough skin for my own work, but I don't want people who like love something to like wait for me to fail, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like they love this IP, and if I dare, even though it's your fanfic, they're like, yeah, I don't need 1,000 knives hitting me at once. No, thank you.
No, it's 5 knives. It's not 1,000. But seriously,
5 really long knives.
But they're so blunt.
Oh my
They're such blunted knives. No, I'm saying they're not sharp knives because,
Right.
I mean, what's the response going to
cut by
be?
a blunt
I don't think the characterization was right in right here. Okay, well, I mean, one of the tags is that people were going to be slightly out of character because they have different backgrounds coming into this. It's you can't change the ingredients without changing the outcome, kind of thing. But what specifically, and that's fuel to get better. Okay, well, maybe you're right. Maybe I got it slightly wrong. How can I envision that this would have been better? And that's also the beauty of that site, because you know what? There's an edit button. There is. You can hit that button and you can polish it. And that's also the danger of that site, because you will tinker.
Yep.
And see, that's going back to art, going back to writing, whatever. I tinker, right? Shae hates this about me because, okay, I just remade our logo, right? Higher res,
For the
different
50th time.
Yes, that right there.
For
See,
the 50th
but
time.
but my thing is, I need to be happy with it. I need to be happy with it. I need to be able to look at it and say, is there something that's bugging me that I have it within my power to fix? And there's one thing that's bugging the fuck out of me, which I do not have the power to fix. But I fixed the rest. I'm happy with where it's at right now. Will that change? Maybe.
I want to go back to that thing, the analogy you said. Blunt knives doesn't make it any better. It actually makes it worse.
It makes it way worse. Way worse.
Knives.
Getting cut by a
that's
blunt
what they were
knife.
getting
way
at.
down the street on that analogy, but I'm going to go back, turn the car around, and be like, that thing is worse. Worse.
Well, it's
I
like,
think that's
have
what
you
Si
ever been
was
cut
getting
by a
at.
butter knife? Like, if you've ever been sliced in the hand by a butter knife.
No, the worst is
Versus,
like the
like, an
edge of a
actual-
cardboard envelope.
Yes,
Oh my
exactly.
God.
Because they're just it's so blunt. It's not supposed to cut, and it
And
does.
the cut
it
is
fucking
so
hurts.
thick. It's so thick. It's like someone macheted you. See, I
I'm
know.
joking. Jack.
We're,
I'm joking. Give me a hard time.
we're in a really interesting spot in this discussion, and I want to kind of explore it if people wouldn't mind. What terrifies you, Gib, about posting your work anonymously on a site that engenders feedback?
The imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Raging,
I feel that.
raging
can see
imposter syndrome. Because
I feel that.
one, it's also when you. I feel bad when I do a nerd convention. I'm selling books, whatever, and inevitably nerd topics will come up, and like it could be the latest movie, the latest television show, whatever. And if I give my honest feedback, people like that alone is just like that's just how dare you speak bad about House of the Dragon because it's safe. It's more of the same. It's not like how and like the fangs come out like so. Let alone now you're tinkering with their favorite IP, whether it's Buffy the 100, just Firefly, whatever, and it's just the thought of that, just like I thank you, but no thank you.
The difference, I think, in this specific instance, the difference is that's why people are there. People are there to tinker with it, and it's kind of accepted going into it. So if there's going to be pushback, it's going to be either the fact that people are writing about something that's already happened, that people have already written, that it's settled, the end. They're going to avoid that site, or they're going to avoid the parts of that site that are not specifically for original works. So you've already kind of got that filter on it. The other thing is it's kind of the same thing. They wouldn't be there if they were content with the way it happened on screen. If they considered that the entire encapsulated story. So in the end, it's just arguing about what color you like. That's all it really ends up being, because or what color you prefer, because whether the main character ends up with the person she ended up with, and who ends up dead literally minutes later, or she ends up with this really scumbaggy dude that some people seem to want to ship her with because they're fucking stupid, or there are a million different flavors, and you can avoid the flavors you don't like because there's there are tags, and there's sorting, and there's don't show me this stupidity, and so you can kind of avoid it that way. So it's my thing is it used to be very Wild West when it came to this stuff. Like there was no way to avoid seeing just the complete and utter sick and twisted dog shit that some people put out there. No, I mean like really into like fetishes and just really horribly just perverse shit, versus people who are actually doing this out of a genuine love for the show, not just wanting to put these people in their weird, sick, twisted fantasies. It used to be that way. It's not anymore. So I think that it's gotten to a place where, to forgive the word, Gib, I think it's a place where you can safely express those things. I don't want to say safe space. I really don't. And you will get feedback, and you will get people who say your shit sucks. And that's okay, because some people are just stupid and just wrong, and that's okay. And I say that with humility, because if I took to heart what the very, very fringe minority of people may have said about something that I wrote, then I wouldn't write. You can't base your creativity, what you're producing, you can't base that on the one, right? You have to base it on what you as an artist, as a creative, whether visually or through prose, you have to base that on what you want to convey first. Now, you can mold that, you can shape that, you can flavor that and tint that with what's going to be appealing to an audience, and you should, if you want that to actually be something other than a journal entry that you're going to keep hidden under your bed. That being said, you cannot pander to the I'm mixing a metaphor, to the worst common denominator at that point, because you'll tie yourself in knots and you'll never produce anything again.
Well, and see, that's the same thing that happened with my first YouTube channel, because we had it was all about game reviews and things like that. And so I was doing gameplays, we were doing like midnight launches and all this kind of stuff. What took down our site were two things. One was there was a YouTube girl who gained extreme popularity because she pretended to be Metal Gear Solid in a very low cut tank top with big boobs, as she very bouncily half ran through the forest. So she skyrocketed in views. And
say it again, but slower.
I don't remember what her name was. But she saw us as a threat because we were in similar veins, and started copying some of our format that worked better than hers, and then basically told all of her stans that we copied her, so they all came after us, mass flagging, reporting, very rabid fandom because I wouldn't show my tits. So there was that. And then the thing that actually took us down was one comment from one person. So one person left a message on one of our videos and said, I don't know why everybody's losing their mind over this girl. She's pretty fugly. And I was 22, 23 at the time.
Sure.
My 23-year-old brain could not fathom that level of aggressiveness, totally unwarranted. Basically they hit on all of my insecurities, where they were like, she's got, scars from acne, and I was like, oh no, and they're like, she's got fucked up teeth, and I was like, oh no, like, just, they got everything, and I obsessed on it for 2.5 weeks before the person that I had the channel with said, that's it, I'm done. Like, I can't listen to you get spun up about this kind of bullshit from some rando that you don't even give a shit about on the internet, and deleted everything, because it was that, or we'd have to put on a pretty big fight with YouTube because of all of the false flagging that we had. And so people who think false flagging is new, that's not a new thing. It's been happening since the inception of YouTube. But I think that that's something that a lot of people are really scared of is the unfettered feedback. And the thing that I think is stopping a lot of people now, when you used to get feedback for your writing or for your art, you used to have to stand in front of the person that you were asking for feedback from. You'd hand over your writing, and you'd stand there while they read it, and you'd watch their reaction, trying to pick up on how they really felt, because you knew that once they actually addressed you, they were going to make it as nice as possible, because they have to look you in the eye. And
this is such a stereotypically thing, because the creator's leaning on their hand and just watching them with their eyes all big, and
And it was like, was that a smirk? I think it was a smirk. Wait, did I write anything funny in that? I don't think there was something funny in that. They shouldn't be smirking.
And then you're trying to look over their shoulder. Wait, what page are they on?
Shit, where are you reading? It's funny, because that's something that I've really found. I've been dying for like unfettered feedback from a lot of friends. And I've given people that I thought would be really honest with me my stuff, and mostly what I get back is, it's good. And then I'm like, it's like the worst thing you could say.
Is learning how to give feedback. And I'm not saying like there's a right way, there's a wrong
That's
way.
valid.
There's definitely some bad ways. But for example, when someone gives me a piece of writing they want to look at, when I first started doing that, I didn't say it's good, it's bad. I had to stop my own brain from saying this is how I would have written it. And I had to look at it as their style.
Right.
I can't. If you are a traditional black and white painter, or and you're doing like a new school style of googly eyes, cartoon looking thing, are you? Well, it's not traditional black and gray. How do I look at this design and say it's good? No, but you have to look at it like, are the fundamentals there? Are the groundworks there? It may not be my style, but I see the artistic merit in it. I don't understand it, but I don't think it's bad. And that's another way of coming at giving a legitimate feedback. Like, I could not give feedback to a romance novel because I'm like, I don't write in romance. But I could say, I don't believe Ken's motivation. Sure, he showed up and he's got a big throbbing erection, but why? It's 2 in the afternoon.
He's tired.
Right, exactly.
He wants a nap.
You need to set up that throbbing erection.
Right,
you can't just open the chapter on it.
And why?
What is his motivation?
And why is she so? Why is she laying in her bed in a nightie at 3 p.m. with
a heaving bosom?
Right, At 3 p.m. No, there's things to do. Morning.
She
like
literally
before,
was just laying all day,
short
going,
right after waking up,
bones.
before lunch. No, God. 3 p.m.
Just
she should
had
have
a
a job.
sandwich.
No, I don't believe this.
just had a sandwich.
At 3 p.m. she should be at work. I don't believe this.
Yeah.
I think let me go with what Gib just said, and I wish my wife was in the room when you just said it, because she dinged me this one time and continues to devalue my feedback because she doesn't think that it's genuine. And here's what she said to me once in a fit of like she was in a fit of frustration. She said, "I wish that you would just give me feedback the same way that you would with your team." And I was like, that would be detrimental to you.
Do you want to stay married?
Not because you couldn't, not because you would not be able to like take it, but because it wouldn't be actionable, right? And I think that to me is a good sign of feedback giving, is when you give something actionable and usable to that person. And to your point, Gib, it's in context of what you drew, right? I don't want to give you, I don't know, like how to render something for a feature film when you're trying to draw something in the style and vein of like a Miyazaki. That doesn't make any sense. It's not actionable for you. So it's not me diminishing your work. I'm giving you feedback that's actually usable in order for you to get next steps. She was seeing it as like, you are downplaying my skill. Like, I couldn't do the feedback that you would give somebody else. I'm like, it's actually the other way. I'm helping to amplify what you have on paper right now in order for you to take it to the next level, something that may be in a blind spot for you. Now, if it's something composition, that's something else altogether. What are we talking about? What kind of feedback would you like from me? Because composition is usable across the board, right? So when it comes to writing, that, to your point, I'm like, I can give you that, my feedback of like character motivation that doesn't make sense to me, in a 3-act structure, here's what I've come to understand when it comes to like screenplay, and this is missing for me, right? Is that important to your story? Because it seems like it is. By the time I get to Act 3, I don't know how we got here. Everything seems to happen really super conveniently, right? Which is, I mean, I've read a handful of like animation scripts, like boys action adventure animation scripts, and suddenly there's a limousine because it's important. But I'm like, you should have set that up in Act 1, that limousine, that lightsaber is important, you know? Like I need to go back and do that now, because it's clearly important by the time we get to Act 3. So that to me is a good example of what good feedback is like, number one, make it actionable, number two, make it in context.
Well, I also think that a lot of people need to realize there are some people that you cannot receive feedback from, and that's not necessarily because of that person. Like, I have a difficult time taking honest feedback from Cyborg. And the reason for that is there is always that little needling voice in the back of my head that says they are always going to hold me up onto a pedestal and I can do no wrong. And unless it's a severe plot hole that anyone would bring up and Cy knows I would be upset if they didn't say it, like, they're not going to say it. And so there are certain people that you, as a creator, have your own barrier from receiving feedback from. Like, very, very astutely said, your wife is probably never going to believe any feedback you give her, because she's either going to undermine it, she's going to say that it's not what you would tell your coworkers or the rest of your team. But that isn't necessarily because your feedback isn't valid or good. Correct. It's because of her relationship with you.
Correct.
And the level of trust that you would be so brutally honest, because that's really what it comes down to, is, do I think this person can put our personal relationship aside to be so brutally honest to me to tell me if something is absolute horseshit, or do I think that they will want to preserve the relationship because there are certain bells once rung that cannot be unrung? Right.
I agree. I mean, it's got a lot to do with, maybe trust isn't the word that I would use, but it factors in there for sure, because it's almost become a joke at this point where one of my best friends, who is a really well-respected director over at Warner Brothers, she'll ask me something and I'm like, this is missing, this is missing, this is missing, or this is strong, this is really great, hold on to this, but recompose it in such a way that does X, Y, and Z. And she'll be like, oh, okay, and I won't see it incorporated. But the moment this guy comes in and says almost identically the same thing that I do, she's like, oh, yeah, no, totally, absolutely. I'm like, I just said that 3 days ago, you know? Mm-hmm. And I go like, oh, it's because it's coming from it's not that she doesn't trust me, but it's coming from a different source that has a different sort of layer painted on top of it, right? Whereas it comes from more... she takes my feedback professionally, but there's also that personal aspect to it that I think is not ingested when she gets it from my director buddy, you know? So I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair.
Well, and there's also the frequency. So if you have told her something and she's like, okay, I'm hearing that, and then another person comes in and says the exact same thing, and she's like, well, shit, this is obviously a lot more obvious to everyone else than what I thought. And so there's so many different layers to receiving feedback and to actually internalizing it. Some of it comes from who it's coming from. Some of it comes from how frequently you're hearing the exact same thing. All of that stuff plays into how you receive feedback as an artist. And so it could very easily be, okay, Eric said it, that's something maybe I should look into at some point in the future. And then, oh, this person also said it. Well, okay, that future just became right now because apparently it is that obvious and I had that big of a blind spot for it.
The other interesting thing is you can trust different people for different feedback at different times. So, for instance, she might trust getting an initial opinion from you, right? And that's going to be like the foundation of the changes or edits that she's going to make, and then she gets feedback from someone else, and that's going to be like the reinforce or kind of shaping things more.
Proof in the pudding.
It's perfect to put.
Yeah.
That's perfectly put. I don't think that's why I was kind of like hesitant to say. I don't think it comes from a distrustful place.
Right.
I think she just wants to like trust but verify. You know?
Right.
Yeah,
Trust
exactly.
So,
People
for instance,
also have a go ahead, Si.
oh, I was just gonna say, if I write something, okay, I'm gonna show it to Shae, because regardless of how brutally honest or sunshine rainbows up my ass, I think the feedback is going to be, I want that initial feedback from Shae, right? And then if it's writing, once I have her feedback, I'm then probably going to move on to you, Gib, or maybe eventually to Sandy or something like that. Writers that I have some kind of even slight rapport with, who I understand that they have a handle, a grasp on their craft.
Yeah.
If it's art, then I'm probably going to go to Eric as my second, almost always. As if I'm not going to Eric, it's probably going to be Rini, if maybe it's more her style or something like that. But there are those people that you trust with feedback, but maybe you don't want to get their feedback first on things, because if I draw
You want to
something,
hit a threshold.
right, if I draw something, well, and you feel safer. I feel safer showing something to you, Shae, initially.
Well said.
Because
said.
you're going to tell me if I'm on crack and what I've actually produced is just a steaming pile of dog shit, before I embarrass myself and go to someone like Eric or Rini or something like that. Or you're gonna tell me, okay, well, you've tried to articulate something here and you've done it very poorly, and this is the feeling it's left me with. You're gonna tell me those things before I stick it in Gibbs' hands, who's going
Stick
to
it in my what?
Mouth, who's going to do me the solid of saying what he needs to say in a very blunt and very direct way, not to be mean, but because he understands how seriously I take writing. I don't want to put that steaming pile in front of Gib, because that's going to lower his expectations of, shut up, yes it is. Anyway, so that's my point. Anyway. Thanks. You killed it, Gib. You killed it.
Thanks for my TED Talk.
Well, no, but that's the thing. It's like it's what we keep circling back on is our own our own fear. What's the term?
Insecurity?
No. Insecurities and imposter syndromes and everything else, because certain people, my ex-wife, I use this as an example all the time, like she was like approximately 70 years younger than me when we first got together, and I would tell her things all the time: don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, and she would never listen to me. But as soon as some guy in her office who was 15 years my senior would say something to her, the exact same words, all of a sudden it was gospel, because I was too close to the situation. And also she has her own version of like paternal issues, so she's looking for a father figure or a whatever authority figure to tell her yes, no, left, right. It could be male, it could be female, it doesn't matter. They're looking for an authority figure. So when someone's close to you, it's easy to dismiss that, but also at the same time it's also fearful of that, because those closest to us know how to slip the knife in just the right way. That being said, it's like I love doing art, but I don't consider myself an artist. So if I was to show Eric my art, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't consider myself to be peers. I consider myself to be like, I'm a journeyman forever, and like, hey, expert, take a look at this. And like, hey, it's got merit. Cool, thanks. But I don't have a real dog in that fight. But when I was at that con last month, and some other indie guys who I respect very much so got copies of my books, I'm petrified of hearing their response. And at the same time, it's like, it's been a month. Why haven't I heard a fucking response yet? It's twofold, because they have lives and they're busy as well. But it's one like, I read your book, why don't you read mine? That's just the world we live in, because when you have peers, you are always, you can't help but rack and stack yourself against people. And it's just part of our innate natures as human beings, and sometimes it's easy to dismiss, well, they're just jealous, or they're just angry, or they're not giving me real feedback, Now, yeah, sometimes can just be the real feedback to that person, to their experiences. It's good. I don't know what good is, and I don't know what bad is, but I don't dislike this thing. And it doesn't help us hone our craft, So that's why you have to break away from those and go to people that will help you hone said craft. And that's the same thing I would
I know
give to
we're
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Gib. Sorry. I was gonna say I know we're at time, but one of these days we're gonna need to talk about like what does imposter syndrome feel like to all of you? Because I want to know if I'm experiencing it, but have not labeled it correctly. Because I often go like, oh, I think I'm just dumbly, naively walking into that, saying, oh, I don't know if I've ever experienced that. But if you guys explain it, I'll be like, oh, no, I go through that almost every day. I'd like to know.
I mean, we could spend a whole other topic on this, but another time. But I guess the short version for me would be something like, how do people think I'm good at what I do? Because I just do my own thing, and people say they like it, but I don't know why. Because I didn't go to the Academy of Indie Book Writing, so I don't know why they think I deserve to be here. So
or I like it, but who the fuck am I? And I might like this 80-85% with some polishing, maybe 90, but I mean it's not fucking Gatsby or whatever.
That's the thought. That's the thought, right? Okay, it's fascinating.
Sometimes. Well, we'll definitely dive into that in a future episode, because I think that that's a good one. And hearing, because everybody's imposter syndrome takes on a different form, and I think that not only is that something that's interesting to hear, like, for our panel, but it's also something that would probably help a lot of people out there.
Oh yeah.
Who are trying to get started and feel like they can't, because
that might be a blocker for them.
I mean, it is.
It's a barrier for a lot of people.
Yeah.
All right, should we do the numbers, Gib?
By all means, we got to get Mr. Canete out of here.
Schenectady.
All right, Mr. Canete.
Eric Schenectady.
Isn't that a part of New York? Oh, okay.
You're the rich part. All right, Mr. Eric, give me a number between 1 and whatever the hell. What did we say it was?
Let me think here. A prime number, 43. Did I get 43?
43. Let's see if we did that. We did not. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Would you rather lose a hand or have a headache every day for the rest of your life?
Oof.
Oh, fuck. Headache?
Can you pick the hand?
Yeah. I'm not gonna take your drawing hand, but
yeah, no, I'll take headache. I feel like
but you have phantom limb syndrome if you lose a hand. So it's, do you want to not have a hand and still
could
have
get
the
a hook.
pain as if you had a hand?
It's his response.
I just feel like, no, these are all valid, but I just feel like dealing with a no hand on my day-to-day feels more like an inconvenience than a headache. I guess it all depends on the intensity.
I'm a
of the
migraine
headache.
sufferer, so like I know that constant drumming, pounding, constantly being
but
there.
But you know what I mean? Like that's a nuance, right? If I just have a feeling of like, God, this is annoying, that's my life now. So I think I can deal.
As long as I got righty, I can get a lot of things done. I don't type very well as it is, so.
And I'll take both hands. I'll take the headache. That's a good one though. That
is a difficult one.
Look, you can always get mildly drunk, and that's a great painkiller.
That or Advil. Come, Kasai, you don't have to like go to the
Advil will destroy your liver. Drinking is much better.
That won't destroy.
They both will destroy your liver.
Well,
one's just more fun.
Pick your number.
Pick a number.
25.
No, we did not. Wait, what the hell does this say? Would you rather own a car with a horn that plays YMCA every time you touch it, or own a car with your kid's favorite cartoon painted on the side? You don't have a kid, so...
Exactly.
That was kind of dumb.
So I'll make it my favorite cartoon. The answer is both. And whichever one I got, I would do the other thing to it as well. And it's going to be anime.
I would love to be driving through Maryland and
so
be on a horn. I'd be like,
okay, you know what? You know what? I don't like that question. Make it the next one or the previous one. I don't care, because that
I'll delete it anyway.
Apply.
All right,
yeah, that was a bad question.
Yeah, only one of us. Well, two of us here have kids, so.
Okay, well, this one's still a little infantilizing, but this could be fun. Would you rather have to wear a bib every time you go out to eat, or drink from a sippy cup for the rest of your life?
Ooh, see, I like both.
Both of those are
I
awesome.
know.
Both of those are
but like practical. A big baby bib too. It's got like, you've got to like.
I want the ones from Red Lobster. With the lobster.
Those are
but every meal.
That's fine.
It's every time.
No, none of those. None of those are. I mean, sorry, this is a size question, but in my heart, I'm like, neither of those is a bad thing.
Take my hand.
You can only have one, Eric.
Take my hand question.
You can only have one. Then I want the sippy cup, because that'd be fun, and I feel like I'd get asked questions. But you know what? I'm not going to take the sippy cup because I wear expensive clothes now thanks to Shae. And you know what? I end up with a lot of stuff on my chest. And I feel like wearing tits, I'd end up with even more food and drink on my chest. So I'm going with bib. Bib to protect Shae's investments.
Bib. Final answer.
Final
All
answer. I'm just bringing the sippy cup.
Shae.
50.
Fitty. All right, let's see here.
Tree fitty.
I ain't giving you no 350, you goddamn Loch Ness monster.
Damn it, dinosaur. Would you rather never be able to go out during the day or never to be able to go out at night?
Oh, that's so easy.
That's a good one, though. That's still a good one.
I am not a morning person. The sun hates me. I feel energized at night. There's less people at night. I would so much rather go out at night.
I had to hide it for many years. I'm a night owl. I love night owl. I'm a morning person. I'm up at 6. I love the sun.
Me too.
Can't do it.
Fuck you both.
I used to be a night owl person when I was in my 20s, but both in my younger years and now I'm up when the sun comes up. I'm just because I get shit done. So
I don't.
See, I'm one of those people. I get energized. Like I get a surge of energy usually at about 9 p.m. And so if I wasn't forced to wake up early that day, and I could wake up when I wanted, I normally want to wake up around 10 or 11. I get a surge of energy at 9. I will stay up and do all kinds of creative stuff until 4 in the morning. And I'll be like, oh, I feel a little tired. I'm like, oh, I should probably go to sleep. The sun's about to come up. So that's what I would love.
All right, someone pick a number for me.
33.
33. All right. Ooh.
Half your age.
Oh, this is too easy, actually. Would I rather sell all my possessions and hit the road in an RV, or have everything on my fingertips but never be able to travel? I don't leave the house now unless I have to. My wife hates me. Are you kidding me? Oh. Just bring the Amazon drone shit to my house. I don't want to leave my little 1 square acre. I'm good, baby.
Valid. The first part of that question is my pipe dream.
Yes.
The second part of that question is my
yes. Yes. That's the same for all of us. Living the life.
This is a great episode. This is going to be broken up into a 2-parter, but yeah, I think that we covered a lot of valid stuff. And hey, we already have a topic for next time, so we don't have to play this game of what the hell are we going to talk about.
Wait, what's
Eric,
the topic?
What is our drawing assignment? What's our drawing assignment? It could be a scene, a theme, a character, something.
Yeah, I want you to draw a water balloon.
A water balloon?
A water balloon. Yeah, okay. A water balloon that it's 3/4 full, right? One that's in stasis, one that's just sitting there. One a version of it that's bouncing up. One of it is that it's on descent, right? And one of it is as it makes impact. 3/4 full, 2/3 full.
So not like Wolverine. You want an art school water? Okay, got it.
So that's 4 things, right? Sitting
right.
still. Ascent.
In stasis, right?
Descent.
Ascent, descent.
Impact.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to like explode, but we're talking about a water balloon that can't like pop.
Okay.
Interesting. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. All right, everyone.
I will have it for you in
week.
3 months.
Sai is terrible. I've been trying to get Sai
That's
to
when
draw
I'm gonna
photo.
be able to look
So
at it.
nice.
Perfect timing.
Nice.
Well, thanks everyone for hanging out with us. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to Red Valkyrie. Ring the bell so you get the notifications. And of course, if you want to have your stuff reviewed by the panel, that time is rapidly approaching yet again. And I still haven't seen any.
Still an empty inbox.
This is what makes me laugh. I think everyone's scared, just like we were talking about. Everyone's scared for the impact feedback
and
because
they should be.
Right? Because it's like, do you really want Eric reading your stuff and then being like,
dude, I'm gonna read your stuff and be like, I don't know anything, but I hate this.
Yep.
Yeah. But if you are interested in being a brave individual to face the gauntlet, send it to redvalkyrie.writingprose@gmail.com, and we will see you guys next time.
Technomancer 5 available now.
Bye, everybody.
Yay! Bye-bye. Technomancer 5!
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Writing Prose. Please like, share, and subscribe if you've enjoyed our content. You can also become a channel member or visit our merch store to help support us. We're currently accepting fan-submitted stories for anonymous, on-air review later in the season. Send your submissions to redvalkyrie.writingprose@gmail.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.